Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, college football season rolls on. We are in week 10, which is crazy. It seems like the season just started, and now all of a sudden there's only 5 weeks left, and we are kicking off week 10 with a breakdown of the Tuesday night slate. We're going to tell you what you can expect from both the games taking place on Tuesday, October 28th, as well as who needs to be in or out of your DFS lineups here for this Tuesday night slate. Now, if you are not already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That we can be with us for the rest of our college football content all season long. We are actually going to be recording the Wednesday night slate episode right after this one. So if you're subscribed, you will know exactly when that drops. And then obviously we're going to have plenty of content for the Saturday main slate and all the other slates as well. And we're going to be going live to talk about the Saturday main slate Thursday night this week. So make sure you tune in to that. But yeah, that's going to do it for the introduction, y'all. We got Tuesday night football. And I got to say, this is a little bit like a little bittersweet because this week is the last week of the Conference USA midweek games. And next week, we get my true love, Maction. So we're saying farewell to these Conference USA teams this week. It's probably going to be the last time we see most of these teams all season. But next week, we've got the real deal, which is Maction. And it is glorious. So make sure you come back for that. Anyway, let's go ahead and dive in and break it down. All right, so game number one is definitely the lesser profile, less notable, less fantasy-friendly game between the two, but this is far from the worst game we've seen on these slates all season long. It is UTEP heading to suburban Atlanta to take on Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State is 10.5-point favorites with a game total of 50.5 points, and the implied total is about 30-20 in favor of Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State ranks 33rd in the nation in rush rate. And so, they're going to run the ball, and it's a pretty good matchup against the UTEP ground defense. UTEP ranks 95th in rushing yards allowed. Meanwhile, UTEP is the exact opposite. They rank 14th in the nation in pass rate, going up against a poor Kennesaw State secondary that ranks 94th in passing yards allowed. So while I don't generally think of these two offenses as very high scoring, very high flying, both of these teams excel at what the other defense is poor at, which is a good sign for scoring. It definitely makes it feel like the type of game where points could be scored because the strength of the offense is attacking the weakness of the defense. Now, let's talk about the UTEP side first. So it does appear that former five-star recruit USC Trojan Malachi Nelson has been benched in favor of Skylar Locklear, and Locklear was great in his last week against Sam Houston, totaling 33 DraftKings points, ran for 2 touchdowns, a little bit of dual threat upside with Locklear. Now, granted, that was against, in my opinion, the second worst team in the FBS in Sam Houston. I think the worst is UMass. Sam Houston's pretty bad. Like that stat line for Locklear is not something that you can expect a week, clearly because he hadn't done it. 13 DraftKings points against Liberty, 8 against Louisiana Tech. He was splitting snaps with Nelson in those games. That is notable. Sam Houston is the only game where he's taken 100% of the snaps. So, well, I don't think it's expectable to put up 33 DraftKings points again. Locklear is a quarterback that has dual threat upside, and he's probably going to come in as the lowest owned quarterback on this slate. So I do think there is a little bit of upside there. He's definitely going to make my player pool. I'm definitely going to have some Locklear lineups because this UTEP team does lead this slate in pass rate, and Kennesaw State's a bad pass defense. So even though I think that the 33 DraftKings points last week was a little bit of an aberration, a little bit of a flash in the pan, I'm willing to go back to him here on this slate because I do think that there's some substance here when you look at the overall numbers. Now, at the running back position for UTEP, Sean Wilson is a transfer from Charlotte. He's been pretty good for them all season long. He's banged up, though, did not get a carry in the last game. Running back 1 to start the season, Cam Thomas, is still out. So Ashton Emery, who had been just meh the entire season, had a really solid game against Sam Houston as well. 15 carries, 96 yards, and a touchdown, 2 catches for 20 yards, 19.8 DraftKings points. So Wilson is going to be out, and Thomas is going to continue to be out, and Emery is like the last man left standing. I actually think that's a pretty good proposition for him. I don't think that this is like a smash spot for him at this salary of $5,000. I think there is better running back options on the slate, but I do think that, a would normally be pretty lukewarm on is a guy that I'm pretty high on because of the situation that he finds himself in. Now, the receiver position for UTEP is a pretty open and shut case for me. I'm going to be playing Kenny Odom, and I'm probably be playing a whole lot of other UTEP receivers. Kenny Odom is the number 1 wide receiver for UTEP. He has been banged up. He hasn't played every single game. And when he's played, he's had 3 dud games. had 3 games over 25 DraftKings points. The last week game, Houston, in Skylar Locklear's first start, above 25 DraftKings points. He appears fully healthy. They're getting him the ball on design touches, as evidenced by him getting 3 carries in that game. And he is he's second Slate in total targets with 52 on the season through 6 games. So I think this is just a great spot for Odom. He's going to be one of my favorite receivers. When you look at the other UTEP receivers, the likes of Davis and Tate, they both had big games while Odom was out. Now, does that mean that they're both total nothings right now? No, but it does mean that their value does have to be a little bit diminished because they really just only had one big shining performance while Odom was banged up or out and haven't done a whole lot since. The guy who's actually been the most consistent target earner over the course of the season for this UTEP team is Eric Willis. Now, when you look at the DraftKings scoring, it's not a whole lot impressive, right? Hasn't scored a touchdown on the season on 15 catches, which is kind of crazy, but he's consistently involved in the offense. He's second on the team in targets all season long. He's had a more consistent role than the likes of Davis and Tate, even at performances. So I do think that Willis is an interesting play at 3,200 that I do think you can play in any format because I do think that he does have a little bit of a floor as opposed to the other guys just having ceilings. And I kind of feel the same way about Torrey Goins. However, he has not played since September 20th. I can't find any information on him. Like, this is a team that doesn't have a whole lot of so I would certainly look to get confirmation before you do play him. It does appear that Odom is the wide receiver 1. Davis and Tate are kind of these like flash in the pan type guys. Willis is a guy that has a consistent role for this offense. All right, the other team in this game is Kennesaw State, the Owls, one of like 4 Owls in Conference USA and the American Athletic. I feel like all the Owls in college football are condensed in those 2 conferences. Anyway, last week I had some people mad at me because I got on here and I talked about Amari Odom because he was so good in the start FIU. And by the time I had done my research, by the time I had recorded and uploaded, it was not Amari Odom that was going to be the starting quarterback for Kennesaw. It was Dexter Williams. And so people got mad. But like, hey, I can only go by what's available to me in terms of information when I do my research, right? And so Williams ended up being the starter in the last game against FIU. Put up 16 DraftKings points. It's not bad. He really wasn't needed a whole lot in that game. Amari ended up coming in that game in relief of Dexter Williams. Super weird scenario, right? But he getting hurt and is now day. So I don't know what to make of this situation. I just don't know what to make of it, right? Because you had Williams that was the starter, but like Odom was back and it just... Actually, I might have... It's a mess, right? We don't know who's going to be the starter. We don't know who's going to be the primary quarterback. It's a mess. Y'all, I actually think I might have had that entire thing reversed. I might have been saying that Williams was going to start, and it ended up being Odom. That just goes to show you the confusingness of this situation, right? So give me a second. I want to research and make sure I was 100% right in what I was saying there. Yes, I actually had it reversed when I was explaining that. I had Dexter Williams as the starter because he started against Louisiana Tech and looked great. What ended up happening was Amari Odom came back and started the game against FIU, and he ended up leaving the game, and Dexter Williams ended up finishing the game. So, yeah, I had the order a little bit wrong there. That's my bad. This is a team we see 2 times a year, quarterbacks that we see 2 times a year. I had it mixed up there, so my bad. Now we know what happened. We know that Odom is likely to play if he is healthy, but Williams is certainly an option. So this is one you're going to have to keep an eye on. You're going to know who's starting. The good news is with these games kicking off at 8 p.m., you're going to know who is the starter by the time lock happens. As long as you're willing to do a little bit of research and do a quick Twitter search or anything like that, you're going to know who the starter is. But the bottom line is, whether it is Odom or Williams, they're both dual threats, both going up against a bad Utah defense or UTEP defense. So I do think that this would be a slate to target either of them. But yeah, like I said, these 2 guys, it was super confusing last week. Confusing it in the as I was doing the episode. Williams was the guy I thought was starting. Odom was the guy that ended up starting. Williams was the guy that ended up finishing the game. All right. Now, the running back position. This is one you got to monitor. Coleman Bennett is, of course, running back for Kennesaw. He's really good. Pretty much since Conference USA play has started, he's been 15 DraftKings points every single game. You can count on it. He left the game early against FIU last week. What ended up happening was you ended up seeing a lot of carries for Alexander Diggs. If Bennett is out, Diggs becomes a top running back play on the slate, in my opinion. Because the main drawback for Diggs is the fact that he's normally in a committee distinctly far behind Coleman Bennett. Well, Bennett's not there. Diggs is a smash play. That's all you got to know. The wide receiver position, good news for Kennesaw State is that they're super condensed at the wide receiver position. Gabriel Benyard is one of the most targeted wide receivers on the slate. He is third on the slate in total targets. He's really good. He's generally a super consistent performer in fantasy. Only one game this season under 14 DraftKings points, and that was against Indiana. So I'm willing to forgive that one a little bit. Every time he suited up against a G5 team, he's scored at least 14 draft points. That is really, really consistent. He is a super big part of this offense, and he does get a ton of usage. Now, after that, Christian Moss does have a pretty big target share as well. He actually ranks fourth on the slate in total targets with 36 through 7 games. I would be willing to play quite a bit of him as well. I just think that really this team is only going to throw to those two guys, and I don't really have a whole lot of interest outside of them. Lyndon Rivare does have 29 targets through 7 games, so he's not a total nothing, but he's only caught 1 touchdown. He has only caught 1 pass longer than 20 yards. There's not enough there to make me want to click him because of the fact that it's limited volume, but it's not good limited volume. Like, it'd be okay if he was a touchdown or if he was catching bombs, but like a limited volume possession receiver is not really what I'm here for. There's not a lot of upside there. And then the other guy, Gerard Bullock, not to be confused with Gerard Butler or Sandra Bullock, did not have a target last week against FIU. And then Clayton Kopach, what played in the game last week against FIU, did not have a catch. So, I'm really just considering Benyard and Moss. And if one of the other Kennesaw State receivers beats me, then so be it. This is a team that doesn't have a ton of passing volume. So, I just think it's unlikely that another receiver steps up and ends up having a big game. Let's take a quick breather now that we've broken down game number 1. Now, before we continue, I do want to mention there are places where you can get more information from me. First off, you can follow me on Twitter at Mike's Money Picks, where I tweet out all updates from the show, as well as I'm more than happy to answer any lineup questions or advice if you reach out to me on Twitter. I'm also in the Fantasy Corner Discord. The link is in the description on the YouTube video as well as on the audio feed. The Fantasy Corner Discord is a community, a bunch of really good, really smart people to play DFS for a lot of different sports. College football is one of the most active chats on there. We're always in there talking lineups, talking strategy, making suggestions, crowdsourcing the injury news. It's just a great place to be a part of if you're looking to talk DFS, talk about the game, sweat it out, and have some fun. It's just a great community. And then if you want to know who actually makes my college football DFS lineups, head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Mike's Money Picks. Every single college football DFS slate, I have an article with my core plays, as well as a full write-up why they're my core plays. So you're not just getting the plays, but you're getting some information from somebody who knows what they're talking about as well. All right. Let's continue on to game numero dos. It is James Madison heading to San Marcos to take on Texas State. There's a little battle in the Sun Belt on a Tuesday night, a little Fun Belt action. James Madison is 6.5-point favorites with a game total of 55.5 points. I'm going to be honest with y'all. JMU against that spread is a bet for me. I've been very impressed from JMU whenever I've watched them. Texas State is a team that seems to be able to score a lot of points, but they can't really defend at all. I think this has JMU written all over it. The implied score in this one is JMU 31-24. Texas State's defense is just bad, y'all. They rank 94th in rushing yards allowed, 115th in passing yards allowed. So either way you want it, you can have some success against this Texas State defense. And JMU is going to want to have it by running the football. And a lot of that starts with Alonze Barnett. He is an elite dual threat at the quarterback position. He came off of a torn ACL and was able to start week 1, and he has been pretty good for them pretty much in every game except the Louisville game, which is forgivable. That's you got a G5 team in James Madison going up and playing one of the best teams in the ACC third place. That's a forgivably bad performance. In Sun Belt play, what you have seen from Barnett, 19, 9, 24, and 62. Yes, you heard that correctly. He scored 62 DraftKings points last week against Old Dominion. He has that level of upside because of his rushing ability. Can we expect 62 DraftKings points from him? No. But in my opinion, he's the most likely quarterback to lead the slate, and that makes him a quarterback that you should be rostering here on this slate. Now, at the running back position, they have got a guy that is the starter that I like to refer to as Newman, Wayne Knight. He's been elite for them all season long. Every single conference game, he's been over 18 DraftKings points. He's a workhorse running back. They don't really like to give it to anybody else. They do give a little bit to Jordan Fuller, but he's a good distance behind Knight in terms of total carries. I think Knight is the play. Fuller has only showed us one game of double-digit DraftKings points this season. I think Knight's the guy you want. I think Knight is, with injuries notwithstanding, Knight is probably the top running back play on the slate. Maybe number 2. At the wide receiver position, this is a place where it's really tough to target James Madison, though. They really do spread the ball around. They don't really condense it to a whole lot of they don't condense it to just a few receivers. They throw to a whole lot of them, right, which makes it really hard to target from a fantasy perspective. Believe it or not, second on the team in targets is Wayne Knight. So if you could actually stack a Barnett and Knight and feel pretty good about it. Lyndon Ellis is the leading target earner on the season. And what we have seen from him is the ability to have a ceiling, 39 DraftKings points against Louisiana Lafayette. And now that makes it six catches in back-to-back games. I think he's worth a look at $5,000. I don't think you need to stack Barnett because of his ability to rush the ball. But if you're going to stack Barnett, the obvious stacking partner is Landon Ellis. If you want to get a little bit interesting, DeGennaro is one of the guys that's second in terms of total targets, but he's really coming on late. And so that makes me feel like his role in the offense is increasing. He's a guy that you're probably going to want to target and get in your player pool at 4,400. And then also tied for second on the team in targets is Jalen Sanchez, which is interesting because he hasn't scored a touchdown all season long. And he has only caught one pass longer than 30 yards all season long. So I like him a little more than the other receiver from Kennesaw we talked about that had this issue. I believe it was Rivare. Sanchez sees a decent bit of volume, right? Like he sees a decent bit of targets, but they're not lucrative targets, right? But if you're playing Barnett, you're probably going to want to stack him. You don't have to stack him. You're probably going to want to. And Sanchez will be a logical guy to stack him with. That is just a whole lot of inconsistency among the rest of these wide receivers. I mean, Alston played a role early in the season. Kyle and Dupree are the two tight ends that they use. Michael Scott, a.k.a. Mr. Dunder Mifflin, we played him in the Louisville game after he had a really good game in the opener. Hasn't done squat ever since. Just hard to have a whole lot of interest for me outside of Ellis and DeGennaro and maybe Sanchez. Now, on the Texas State side, don't just discount this team because they're going up against JMU. Yes, JMU is a really good G5 defense, but this Texas State offense is really good. They score a lot of points. Their quarterback is Brad Jackson, and he has been super consistent all season long. His worst game was against Arizona State, against a powerful opponent. Still put up 18 DraftKings points. If you can put up 18 DraftKings points against Arizona State, you can do it against JMU. And oh, by the way, in every game against G5 competition, he's been over 22 DraftKings points. He's a little bit of a dual threat also. Double-digit rushing attempts in every game but one, rushing touchdown in every game but one. That makes me really like Jackson as a play with a ton of upside. I am definitely going to have game stacks of this game in my portfolio. At the running back position, Lincoln Pear is their best one. Double-digit DraftKings points in every single game. He is the workhorse. He is the guy that you are going to want to be playing. Leads the slate overall in carries. I mentioned how Wayne Knight might be number 2 on the slate in terms of a play at running back position. It's because Pear is number 1. I would certainly rank Pear ahead of Knight in terms of projecting total points scored. The problem is that Pear is pretty darn expensive. You really have to find value elsewhere if you want to get Pear into your lineups, which does make it an actual inflection point and an actual decision. But I do think that he is worth getting to. Second on the team in carries is Burrell for Texas State. He's been okay. Like he had one big game against Troy where he broke off a long run. Other games just hasn't really done a whole lot. And then you've also got Torrance Burgess, who is back for this game. That might be into Burrell a little bit. I think Burgess is a little overpriced at $4,600. We don't know what his role is going to be coming back off of a month injury. At the wide receiver position, Texas State, the good news is they are pretty darn condensed, which makes life easy for us. Bo Sparks leads the entire slate in targets at 62. That is nearly double the next person on the team. Bo Sparks has a massive target share. He is a guy you want to be getting into your lineups, has a ton of ceiling, 3 games over 29 DraftKings points. He has had every game over 6 catches, but 2. I like Bo Sparks. I think he's objectively one of the top wide receiver plays on the slate. Chris Don is second on the team in targets with 35. He's come on strong lately, back-to-back games over 100 yards. Last year, we also talked about Chris Don. He's a big play guy. He doesn't need a whole lot to hit value. He's definitely a guy I'm going to be getting into my player pool, even though I do think Sparks is an objectively better play. Don is a guy that can absolutely get there on lower volume and does have a chance at hitting his ceiling. Kalen Evans is third on the team in targets. He kind of falls into this camp of the receivers we've talked about already, where not a whole lot of volume, not a whole lot of touchdowns, not a whole lot of explosives. So it does make him kind of a hard click, but this is an offense that's going to be throwing the ball a ton, which does make him targetable for that reason. After that, I'm not seeing a whole lot from the rest of the receivers that makes me want to target any of these guys for a DraftKings lineup. All right, that is going to do it for the Tuesday night slate. Hopefully we gave you guys all the information you need in order to build some winning lineups here on this Tuesday night DraftKings and FanDuel slate. And hopefully you weren't too angry at the fact that I mixed up those Kennesaw State quarterbacks. Like yeah, that was a true mistake on my part, and I do apologize for it. But yeah, I just got them mixed up. Anyway, that is going to do it here for this episode. If we helped you out in any way, please hit the like button if you're watching on YouTube. Please rate and review if you're listening on audio. It really does help us out a ton when you guys do that, and I really do appreciate it. We're going to be right back to talk about the Wednesday night slate. And on that slate, y'all, I will say, we're going to have a philosophical discussion about when to play one quarterback lineups. This Tuesday night slate is not a slate to do that. The quarterback plays on this slate are pretty good for one of these midweek slates. There's plenty of options to play. I think that this is a really good quarterback slate. This is going to be a pretty high scoring slate, and finding the right combination is going to be a fun venture here on this slate. The Wednesday night slate is a lot different, though. So make sure you tune into that episode. Anyway, that is going to do us here for this episode, y'all. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Best of luck to you guys on the Tuesday night slate. Subscribe to the channel that we can be with us for the Wednesday night slate as well as the Saturday main slate and all other slates. But that's going to do it here for this episode, y'all. Best of luck to you, and we'll see you guys next time.